Instagram, waiting for them to wake up and connect. And it looks like YouTube is doing that.
I'm not sure why
And
my mic is blinking.
oh boy, already out of the gate.
Can you hear me right now?
I can.
Okay,
Hear you
so it
loud and
doesn't matter
clear.
whether this thing is blinking or solid. Okay, fine.
Right.
That means that means I have no cough button. I'll
Uh
have to use
oh.
it. I'll have
So
to use the one on the screen here.
you're gonna be sneezing in my ears
I
in stereo.
hopefully not. Yeah, I don't know why that happens sometimes. I think it depends on the sequence that you plug things in.
One of these days, somebody is gonna come in as a podcasting angel investor and really set us up both with all the right equipment, and we will have to ever worry about it again. But so Jake, I have a hundred questions about the turbo timeline, which I'm
Wait, are we
hoping
live?
you're. Oh yeah, buddy. Yeah, we're
Oh,
live. We're on. We're
hi,
on.
welcome everybody to another episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter with Jake and Kurt. We are live on Instagram and we're live on YouTube at the same time. And we highly recommend that you switch on over to YouTube to see the full screen and the full panoply of art in front of you as we draw and ink live in split screen every Sunday in order to make this comic Turbo Pit Fighter, a sci-fi post-apocalyptic love story that I thought I had a copy of handy, but I guess I stuck it somewhere. And this is our exciting Turbo teaser. These are just pinups, really, and of course our Turbo sticker. Um, I do the pencils and the heavy lifting on the writing, and Kurt is the inker, and he does the heavy lifting on the promotions and social media, and he's my sounding board. And this is a special segment that we have planned for you today, where we're going to be going over the Turbo world and the what we call the end of the world timeline. So, how's that for an intro?
Fantastic. Let me just add there is a PDF version now of the second turbo teaser. KurtBrugel.com is where you're going to be able to pick up a copy. It's actually the same cost as getting a printed version, which is $3 right now. So there won't be
No
any
shipping.
limited edition. There's no shipping. It gets it in your hands. I actually scan these pages so you get that feel. For what's going on
You can
in the
see the
first
paper
12
if you
strips.
zoom in. If you zoom in
Yep,
close enough, Kurt,
yep.
why don't you tell us the technical specifications of the scanner? Is it 400 at 100%,
No,
or is it
no,
400?
no. I had it at 300 DPI, and then it was like 122 megs. And then I shot it down to 150, 8.5 by 11 scan pages, and it's like 22 megs. So if somebody wanted to do a bootleg print version of it in their own home, that's totally cool.
Right. Well,
I'm not.
this is one thing we were going to discuss, and it's a safeguard because if you sell a PDF version of your comic and you post it online in print resolution, which 300 is a reasonable print resolution. I prefer 400 or higher for line art, for especially if you have, thin black and white lines that you don't want to get lost. You want to see up close how it hits the paper, and you want to be able to zoom in when you want to. But selling the PDF at 150 means people can use their two fingers to zoom in and see things clearly and see fine detail. But at the same time, it won't let your laser printer or your quick print shop duplicate it so that you can bootleg them in Russia or Asia or wherever South America, wherever you're far enough from far enough from the legal eye of the creators. And I don't mean just our comic, any comic. But um, another safeguard that I was going to ask Kurt is what you could do is you could find somewhere along the white margin, or you could find some random area on a page that has some white or black, and you could put in a little text message with, like, 4-point type that says, this is the property of Doom Magazines, Kurt Bruegel, whatever, and then you EQ it so that it is so imperceptible that it is not visible to the naked eye. However, anybody that knows it's there, I mean, this is just like a digital bookmark, right? Or digital watermark, I'm sorry. But anybody that knows it's there, knows to look for it, can find it, and it says, "Look, may not be reproduced in any form or part or whatever." And clearly, you violated this if you have this in your possession and you don't have a sales receipt. So, not saying anybody's going to go through all of this rigmarole. We know that things are bought and shared. Just like people can buy an LP and record it and give their friend a cassette, and that's been going on for decades. Uh, but it's just something that the creators might want to think ahead, because maybe 100 years from now, you'll
It'll be in the public domain.
yeah, right. Well, right,
Gotcha.
when it's all immaterial, right? No, it's it's a question. It's actually a question. What is what the laws could be in the future too. Those things could change, but probably it's probably going to be more generous towards the public domain uh, than less. We'll see, because that's what Disney and Warner Brothers have been fighting. So that battle rages on. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting conversation. But as far as I'm concerned, thank you, Kurt, for doing the legwork of creating a PDF that people can download, and basically it's half price because you don't have to pay the shipping. Nowadays we know the shipping usually exceeds the price of the comic. But another question is, do we want to put in any kind of a bonus page or two in the PDF? Because then it would be advantageous for a person to buy the digital format rather than the print format, or do we want to do it the other way around? Just
Yeah, I would do it. I would do it the other way around. I still prefer people to get the print experience over the PDF. I mean, I'll just say it out loud. I mean, it's a cash grab to just digitize your work and try to get it out there, because the experience is so diminished. When you're reading something digitally as a comic book, because I can't get my point across enough that this is my art. This is
Yeah.
not my. This is not my art. This is my art. This is what I'm constantly working for in perfection, is the reproduction and the value that comes through and the consistency of my abilities to tell a story. Now, this is you and I collaborating,
Yeah.
but I'm doing this with Crom the Barbarian. This is 140 pages of black and white sword and sorcery goodness. There's some revamped pages, if you will, some old pages from 2016 I did in ballpoint pen, and then I gave it this new value toning flavor. But this is my art. The physicality of the art is just a means to an end. Because as there's so many things I see as I keep flipping through this, going, ooh, I want to tweak this, and then I want to try to push this a little. You know what I mean? Instead of just going, oh wow, man, look how cool my art is. I'm not there as a fan.
Well,
so
I
once again, get a physical copy.
Yeah, the old people know that just like having an LP is preferable to having a cassette that somebody taped for.
Oh yeah.
I mean, unless it's a mixtape, but we can talk about that. But yeah, having a physical copy, it could be valuable one day. It is the the most direct way to support the artist in its original support the art and the artist in its original intended format. And but I gotta say, okay, Boomer or okay, Gen Xer, there is a whole generation out there of immediacy, short attention
Gratification.
span, that like that, and I know the feeling because one time I was like, oh look, I was looking into this artist Steve Mannion, and I saw he
Yeah.
had some digital downloads on Amazon, that, or it was like sketchbooks that you could buy, and I was like, oh look, there's a print copy, for $17, or you could get, like, for $3.99, you could get like a 45-page sketch diary. And so I bought it off Amazon. First time I ever bought anything in digital format. And I'm looking through it on my phone, looking through it on my iPad, whatever. It's not as good. I feel like I would be better off with the tangible asset. But there is an immediacy of it and a short attention span. By the time somebody goes out and tries to hunt it down in a store or orders it offline and waits for the shipping and all that, you might lose them. So um, there's kind of like an impulsivity in any kind of sales, that you want to catch people while they're interested before it fades or they get distracted. Oh, look, a squirrel.
Yeah.
um, people should just cover all your bases, right? Do it any way you want. We're not saying what you should do. We're saying what we're doing, and if you find something valuable, go ahead and follow along. Um, I did want to share with Kurt, um, today, something that I took a little stroll down to Newberry Comic. Kurt,
Yay!
this is where Kurt cringes and rolls his eyes. Oh no!
Guess
And
what? Guess what? Guess what?
what?
I just this morning I episoded episode 50 of the Comics That Influence,
Yeah,
and that's your half is a haul. I think
a
it's a
hole from Newberry,
$50.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
and it's a good. It's good. It actually ended
it's
up
kind of
surprising you,
they
but
sell bundles of comics, 10 for like $6. So you pay basically like 60 cents a comic. And I was pleasantly surprised that last time. I don't know if I'm going to be so lucky the next time, but a couple of things I wanted to show on my visit there. Number one, Kurt, you probably know the name Terry Moore, right?
oh yes, yes, yes.
So here is Terry Moore's sketchbook. It is a perfect bound trade format. What is this? It looks like it's a little more square. It looks like it's about like 10 by 12, right? So kind of like an odd size. And Terry Moore is a indie cartoonist of pretty impressive stature. Worked for many years for what is it? Ripoff, Last Gasp, Fantagraphics, those type of companies. Not sure the
But
right
his
way.
own thing.
What's
Wasn't it?
that?
It's all strangers in paradise,
Yeah,
right?
Stranger. Right. The big hit
Yeah.
was,
By the way, he
yeah,
has a great YouTube channel. He has a really great YouTube channel. I believe it is just straight up either Terry Moore or
yeah.
Strangers in Paradise Terry Moore or something like
Yeah,
that.
so
Yeah.
Strangers in Paradise has been around for a while. First it came out in floppies, then you got the trade paperbacks out, and pretty good art here, you got to say. But this is a sketchbook called Terry Moore After Dark, and I got a couple of page flips here. It's all just pencil sketches, page after page after page, of these rather pleasant looking babes in various states of undress. Nothing real heavy nudity here, so this is kind of lightweight. I think there was like one or two topless that I saw. I didn't flip through the whole thing, but marked down from $29.99. And so I could have picked this up for $11.99, but instead I just flipped a couple of snaps, because you get the idea. This is just Terry's like quicker style, and there are a couple examples of how Terry goes from pencils to inks to colors and everything, and through the whole process. But interesting example of how a pretty well-established artist is just putting these sketchbooks out. And you know I don't know if you're doing well if you're on the markdown shelf, but there was a lot of decent stuff marked down at the mall. This holiday. This was the day after Christmas. Um, this is also what I photographed while I was there. This beautiful cover from Skinner for Creep Show comics by I don't know that I can't see the publisher here, but we got to look into this artist. Look at this artist
Oh,
Skinner.
he's on a list. He's on a list. I watch his
Yeah,
channel too. Great
right.
shit. Also some good. Yeah, and a musician too.
Oh yeah. So I
Yeah.
grabbed I grabbed a little shot of that. And I was looking at these. I was looking at some of these comics, and I'm talking to Kurt a lot about these trends I see in the comic store. You got your DC Marvel, and they're just churning out way too much crap, if you ask me. Too much
Oh yeah.
everything, too much Avengers, too much Wonder Woman, I mean, it's
Yeah.
cyclical, but too much Batman, too much Spider-Man. I don't know. I would thin down the herd. But what they're doing is, look, here's Thundercats, Chitara, Dynamite Comics. Here's Creep Show. These are just established franchises. This is Gargoyles. Um, what they're doing is they're taking these just like existing franchises that I just have a name, and they're basically like these are just animated series or like TV series, and they just get artists to pump out a comic and then just do like 10 variant covers. I don't know, 6, 10, 12 variant covers, and this is what sells in these comic stores. And I got to show you the ridiculousness of it. Look at this. This is the back where it has the price of it.
Hmm.
Gargoyles #2, the rare variant, 1 out of 30. What do they call that? The rarity, 1 out of 30 rarity factor. $15 for a freaking comic. For
That's cheap.
not nothing special. Like at least this Chitara has the metallic foil cover, right? Where you can't even get a good picture of it because the freaking light is bouncing off it, and nice artwork. I mean, some of these covers are really good artwork. There's no doubt about it. But it's basically a glorified pinup, that you're paying for. And I don't get it, man. This whole speculator market, I just don't see the value there, and I can only imagine that it's all going to fall through. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a business, expert, but I can't imagine that that Gargoyles 1 out of 30 variant is going to hold its value, and the person that paid $15 is going to ever get that back. Am I wrong? I mean, Gargoyles number
Well, that's
two.
speculative market. That's speculative market. There's no guarantee in it.
It's a speculative market, but there's nothing special about this freaking cover.
Well, there was nothing. There was nothing special about Batman issues 1 through 100 when they came out. They were just throwaway entertainment. So much throwaway that guys left them in their bedrooms when they went off to the war or college. Got married, and mom was like, "Shit, Jimmy ain't coming home. He's married man. He's a businessman. I don't
Right.
just
No,
and
well,
then just throw him away."
you're talking about something that was put out on newsprint that was meant to be disposable. That some
Yeah,
genius, 11-year-olds, who had like a accountant's visor on, said, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bag and board one of these 1938 action #1.
oh yeah, oh
One day
yeah,
this is
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be." I mean, there are people that thought that, and they're dead
whole
now.
whole
But
whole
they
entire
figured,
collections. Yeah,
was that
whole entire collections based on just that. The
right?
person thought that the person had such an admiration for what was being created, even thought about it as an art form,
Yeah.
and protected it that way. But
Yeah, but now there's
Jake,
nothing.
that's what we're
There's
always
nothing
working
special about
against.
Gargoyles #2, variant cover number 10.
Not until Not until something makes it that way, because that's what you're working on. Is, if it wasn't for those um, Marvel movies, I don't think we would be in the space and ability to have the complaint, out loud. It's just, we're lucky enough that pushes once again, like Image did, and Death of Superman back in the early '90s. It pushed a whole bunch of outsiders into comic books, but they were coming in after the gold, like a gold rush kind of thing. I agree with you. I'm not speaking ill against anything you're saying, but at the same time, comic books, in my opinion, as a business, is probably somewhere up in the 80 percentile of its value is speculative.
Yeah.
And I've seen many, many, many other people on YouTube who are actually collectors. Like they do, like there's, a lot of them are talking about the fall of CGC or CGing comics or whatever the hell they call that, slabbing them and all that. You know what I mean? Because nobody's able to flip them for any more than what the cost was for them to have them pressed, which is like $75 to get something CG'd. And if you get something high enough in the high nines, then yeah, you're supposed to have this value. But getting back to like the indie world, the indie comics, you know, it's still, there's still, I think a lot of us live in a headspace that's more about like, I want to see this on paper. I want to get my story out, and that's obviously the
Yeah,
ultimate.
if you're an artist,
But
if you're a
well,
creator.
I mean, even if you have an idea, but I think the second coolest thing is there's that, oh boy, maybe one day somebody will make my comic book into a movie, an animation. You know what I mean? Like it will have some kind of life expectancy out and beyond it just being some silly thing I've done. But the problem or issue that is at hand for all of us in any form of entertainment is attention. The study comes out every year and it gets lower and lower, that it used to be about 6 hours a day. People had time to basically fart around, like watch television, listen to music,
time, yeah.
read a book, leisure time. Now they're saying it's 2.3. So 2.5 hours
I don't know. My
is
phone
what
is
you can
telling me.
expense.
My phone is reprimanding me every day. You spent
Not the phone. That is not what I'm saying. That's not what's being, the study is based on watching content in a supportive value way. In other words, paying for a subscription to Amazon, Amazon or Netflix or anything, to watch a television series, to read a comic book, to, follow a cartoon, or even us, the YouTuber, people
Yeah.
podcasting. You know what I mean? Like, there's just not enough time. There's not enough time unless you are listening to us, a podcast, or somebody else in the background while you're working or driving to work, or just doing your exercises or something. And if you are, thank you very much. But that's the struggle. That's really the struggle. And I don't know. I just find it more and more depressing because there's just it's like it's like lava pouring out of a volcano of content out there. But there can be something that like we're doing that'll sting a couple of people, and we'll get a little bit of buzz and activity. But then immediately everybody's moving over to here, or they're dispersing over there or something like that. So not a complaint, just a fact, a reality of being a creator.
Depends on your content. I think if you're like the fourth generation working on an existing franchise, people are just going to be like, okay, how good is the writing or the art? But if you're if you're an indie creator and you're coming up with something new, like when Ninja Turtles came along, people were like, "Oh, here's a fresh idea. Let's ride this." Um, and so we're going to get into a cool segment next where we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss our world building and everything. But just so people don't know, we're creators here, and we are trying to keep our eye on the biz and what people are buying and what people are tuning into. But we are really shaking our head a lot, because a lot of this like commercialized comic stuff, like 90% of the stuff that you see at a convention, you're just looking for like, God, who's I mean, me personally, it's like, okay, has anybody got some interesting, fresh black and white sci-fi concept? I'm looking for artists like Frank Frazetta doing internal pages, people like Tim Vigil doing internal pages. You want to see a
There,
good
there,
new
there are people out
artist,
there.
or a great new cover title that just drags you in and makes you flip the thing open, and see if there's good interior pages. You're looking for value. Um, I do have something. I did buy something from Newberry. Besides a $6 batch, I did buy a trade paperback, which I'll show on an upcoming version of Comics That Influence. But let's jump into the timeline here, because Kurt was going to play devil's advocate or sounding board, or he was going to be Siri or whatever, and just try to bring
Can,
the the average person, the average normal person. He's gonna be the normie, and I'm going to be the person that, like, that put all this together and understands. I call this a mind map, but there's a lot here. So you know, first impressions, Kurt. When you saw this, what jumps out?
um, chaos.
Yeah,
But the Elevena, Esoterra, and their only reason, it's not because they're big. I mean, it has something to do with the big, but these have been topics that you have been deeply involved in discussing with us. Me, yeah, the RM. Yeah, and then the big invention of yours early this year was the word Megapocalypse, whether that
Megapocalypse.
was it Megapocalypse. Yeah, Megalopol. That's a whole other
Megapocalypse.
thing. So so we're kind of using that as like a larger framing mechanism. Instead of just going post-apocalyptic, which is the Mad Max recipe. We're kind of blazing our own. But you had said before you sent this to me on the air that you were sending this to me, and there was a basic beginning time to ending time line that is structured through here. So I just wanted to red pen my way
Yeah.
through this to kind of even and just do it with like 2072,
Yep.
2192, 2020, 22, these types of anchoring mechanisms, because that has been something you're pacing with. I don't want to call it a struggle. You're just sort of like, should we put it here or should we put it there? So it's more like a pacing question than anything else from there.
Yeah.
So the first thing right here, you have the P-bots, Shankra, Eugenia,
Eugenio. Yeah.
Oania. This is the first time I'm hearing that name. But this is what if you can give me right here and now a date to put, what would that date be above P-bots?
Well, the good thing is I'm keeping track of all of this in the actual end of the world timeline, which lives at hellclaw.com, and which Kurt has been posting little by little on our Doom Mag Substack.
Yep.
So if you go there, you can get all the exact dates. But this is going to be early on in the game. Some key dates are Esoterra is born 2159. I have that memorized. Um, and and Shankra is going to be, I think, 61 years old when that happens. So, hey Siri, what's 2159 minus 61? Okay, so 2098 is when Shankra is born. So she's kind of early and gets things started. Shankra, if you're listening to this, you're getting a lot of spoilers here. But Shankra is going to be also, aka the unseen hand. She is going to be a force that moves things along in this timeline to have kind of like a godlike. She's not godlike, but to have like a mystical feel to it, which changes things at key moments. For example, um, leading Esoterra's adoptive parents to the baby just as she was being abandoned. That was in our I think second or third Substack installment. It's like the finding of baby Esoterra. Um, Shankra is going to be a born in the India Sri Lanka diaspora. She's going to be a very very interesting character, which I can't wait to write more in depth of. But she, in her early 20s, when she's in the prime of her flowery youth, is going to make the biggest sacrifice imaginable by going deep cover underground and marrying Eugenio de Huberton.
Oh, this is a dude, right?
Yeah. And she is going to play like the good wife um, for decades and decades and centuries as she becomes a sentient, kept alive in later years by artificial means. What she's doing the whole while, though, while she's playing this good little Stepford wife to the literally the guy that is leading the charge in the pleasure bot industry, is that she is existing on this otherworldly plane that I'm calling for now the nether plane, but there's going to be a bunch of different astral planes where people can disappear to. And the one that she goes to is going to be where the past and the past and the future of DNA meet together as every child. Well, this is a little hard to explain just right off the cuff, but um, just imagine a plane where when a man and a female hook up and they have a baby, right?
Yeah,
So there's this key
I've
moment.
heard about it.
Yeah, the birds and the bees. So there's this key
Mommies
moment.
and daddies.
Yes, there's this key moment scientifically where where the DNA of the child is formed, right? And it's really like a battle between the DNA of the host parents, of the mom and the dad, right? And sometimes, the mom's DNA has supremacy, and sometimes it's the dad's, right? And so I just wanted to imagine an unearthly plane where that battle takes place in kind of like a graphic visual format. And this is where Shankra hangs out and she witnesses and she's just watches and observes and learns and learns and learns until the day that it's her that's impregnated by Eugenio, right? And so then she finds herself in the battle, and she has been watching this plane. Now she's going to be the one. She's going to be the one that guides the hand of Esoterra's parents to find her. She's also going to be the one that guides the couples together during the protest in Philadelphia in the We Lose segment, which is already posted in 3 chapters. It's called Reen Paw's Farm. she pushes people together because she knows that the species needs to survive, and that it's not going to happen unless responsible people find each other. And one of the big irony, I'll get off this nether plane thing in a second, because it's kind of like it's kind of not comicky. This is more like high concept, and this is probably just going to be all in prose, because I don't know, we might have to find like some kind of abstract artist to work on the representations of this. But um basically, like, finding people in the nether plane, there's going to be like this bitter irony where if there was just a guiding hand all along to find people in the nether plane and match them together based on their characteristics, you could find the perfect match every time. And that life here on earth is so like bittersweetly ironic and tragic comic, because so many of our relationships end in split ups and misery and divorce and abuse and neglect and all this stuff. But if there was only a guiding hand that could just say, like, wow, I can look, like AI, at your characteristics and the characteristics of this other person, and find a perfect match, and then just all you gotta do is just have the people meet each other, at the right age, at the right time and everything, and then you could have a perfect match, right? And what things could be. But alas, that's not meant to be. And so she does interfere on the nether plane to do this. And so the nether plane is going to be kind of like this place. I want to try to explain it like, where DNA exists, but it's not just, the DNA of the past and the present, but it's also the potential DNA of the future, which are also represented. So I know that's really confusing. Let's just leave it there. But and you can move on to another question, because you're probably like, what?
No, I'm with you. No, you have to understand. I'm that immediate response person, and audiovisual is exactly the way I can really consume, digest, and hold on to information. So I'm getting a lot of like callback going. Oh yeah, like 2 years ago he brought that up. I mean, I couldn't tell you
Yeah,
like what
right.
episode and all that type of stuff, but the beauty of being a creative person is being totally at the mercy of the conscious state, the flow state, the when you can hook into something
Yeah.
that you just let yourself go and let it come through you and get on a piece of paper. So I just also want to say a shout out to you, Jake, in that making this like image board type of sketch, timeline, all these different things. We have to do this more and more, and this is really, I have this hanging just off to the side of my drawing station, to kind of give me that reminder of like, don't get so precious so quickly. Let it come out. Let it flow. And you've been doing this since when we started doing the podcast. But I could go back to the '90s and early 2000s when we were always messing around with stuff, and you'd be like, "Oh, hey, here's an idea," and I'd be like, "Okay, what do you got?" And then
Yeah.
but it never really had a landing pad. Like now you have a landing pad, and
Right.
it's all and it's all expansive.
Yeah. If
Um,
Go ahead. Well, if I could just
okay, keep
if
going,
I
keep going, keep going.
yeah, if I could pull back the curtain for a second, because I know a lot of people, you have your own creative ideas, and you go through a lot of this stuff, like, okay, when do I put something on paper? When is it put in stone?
Immediately,
When is this, like, a canonical idea in my world? That I'm going to put in my Bible, that I would hand off.
immediately.
Right. Right, and it's a good idea to do that, because you could always change it later. But you find that just go with it. You don't make I the times that I hit delete on some of this stuff is pretty rare. So I would just want to say, like, when my dad died, and I realized that, oh, I'm the old one now. I say, okay, how much time in my life do I have to get projects done off the ground? You see what it takes. With this turbo pit fighter is a really strong idea. That I had a long time ago.
Deep.
And so now what I wanted to do was say, all right, how can I take all my good ideas, my best ones, maybe like 4 or 5 or 6 best ones, and just put them all in the same world. And it was your suggestion, hey Jake, just do, put this out in writing, just let it flow, stitch it out, just like, free form consciousness. um and I did. And so, my best ideas, I think, were Turbo Pit Fighter, were the a storyline I had called Turmoil on the Planet of the Sex Robots, which
Right.
which is now, Turmoil on the Planet of the Pleasure Bots, which is now
Right.
completely, into the story. um Another thing was, I wanted to do something superhero-ish, but not superhero-ish, but like post-superhero. I just wanted to get like a team, an all-girl team together, for a comic. And it kind of flirts around the edges of superheroes. So that's going to be the moment in time where Esoterra meets Hellclaw and Chromita, and there will be a 3 woman team, or one of them is a robot, but there'll be a 3 woman team in here somewhere when Esoterra is in her 20s and 20s to 30s, let's say. And I actually started, um, scripting this. Believe it or not, Kurt, I'm not doing full page scripts, but I have done a synopsis. I have started a synopsis of the moment that Esoterra is going to meet Hellclaw, and the 2 pager, which I'll pull out now. The 2 pager that we're doing for Alex Turbin's anthology is also based on the introduction of Shebot Chromita, who's going to be the robot on the team. And so this is page 1. It's already done, ready to ship to Kurt Brugel. I just have to do the Doom Mags here. And
Cool.
page 2, I've gotten pretty far, even though I was sick lately. I have almost penciled out page 2, which I will reveal now. But um, so I wanted to like get some of this like superhero-ish stuff out of my system. It's not really superhero. It's more like a Doctor Strange meets, a mutant meets a robot. And I just, keep thinking about my childhood and my youth, and like, the Defenders comics that I used to love, and the X-Men, or the good X-Men comics that I used to love. So I want to, so there'll be a brief period of that, but then, it's going to be all about the downfall of society and the world. So it gets real sci-fi ish from there. And this character Esoterra is going to engineer her own daughter to be the savior of the world, and that's the plan going in anyway. But she engineers a kid with a highly superior mind and body. But the superior mind, creates things that fall into the wrong hands. So that only hastens the downfall of society, unfortunately, in an ironic twist, including the Megapocalypse. So some key moments here, just for the uninitiated, will be the downfall of the U.S. government, which will be 2222. And then shortly after that, not sure exactly the date, the Megapocalypse, where the Dehuberter family depopulates all the big cities by spreading radioactive poison gas by drone, and just kills off people by the millions, literally. And so that'll be bad. And the reason why that'll get triggered is by mistakes that are made. So there's going to be mistakes that Esoterra and Elevena share some of the technology about enhancing humans with the wrong people, and it falls into the hands of the dehubertor. There's going to be a mistake where Shankra, one of her, possibly her last actions, is to expose the dehubertor family by making flying P tapes available. What's a flying P tape? A flying P tape is a recording of a flying P in your vicinity when you didn't know it was happening, but there it is. and she's going to turn those over to Elevena. Elevena doesn't even know who they come from because she's still going to be the unseen hand. She's going to make them public to embarrass the Dehubitans, and in a fit of anger and rage, they're going to unleash the Megapocalypse. And so Elevena will blame herself as she surrenders and goes into prison. Um, so there's gonna
And
be
that's 2022.
at some point after,
Somewhere, if that's the, but that's a junction. That's a
yeah, the
junction point.
Megapocalypse
There's the
will be.
pre,
Well, it's
and
still
then
going on when Turbo. They're going door to door when Turbo is 10, and that's going to be around 2240. So the Megapocalypse will be the fall of the U.S. government. There'll be a while after February 22nd, 2222, otherwise known as Tuesday. But there'll be quite some time between that and the actual Megapocalypse. But we have to backwards map that because they're depopulating the big cities and they're going door to door, and that's when they knock on Turbo's door, and that's when the first page of Turbo Pit Fighter kicks off. So
yeah,
everything is just kind of like backwards engineered, to make Turbo make the most sense. Along the way, we're also going to have the Duke, which the Duke wasn't one of my greatest, properties that I was saving. That kind of came along after we started Turbo because you came up with the idea of this legendary wrestler figure that's in the background.
yeah, yeah.
So he'll be like this decades long legend. And so we did a lot. I did a lot of the Duke and inventing him. That's going to be fun. He's going to take a run at the Dehubertons with a giant Gundam, mecha, and it's going to be a big distraction. He's actually going to take out a couple of the principals in a much more quiet tunnel attack. But he'll have his day in the sun, and he'll also have the Duke coin, which is going to compete with all currencies of the day, including the U.S. dollar. So that's going to be fun to talk about. But yeah, my big properties that I thought were going to be cool were going to be Turbo and the turmoil on the planet of sex robots, which I'm still developing. It's still going to be a hot war, localized within a couple of states between males and females. It's going to be an all-out gender war because the sex robots and the war robots are going to change, life so dramatically here in North America. One other thing that I had, which I haven't gotten into at all for a long time, is an idea I had called "Kill Crazy Priests in Space," and I still think it's a great concept. But we haven't spoken about. Well, what about space travel? When are people going to take off and get off the planet and move out? So we do have to have an aspect of that because remember, in this timeline, we have to think of everything, right? Eventually. So there is going to be a cool storyline on a mining colony, um, you know, on some distant moon where they are going to be able to build a dome that has a breathable environment. But that's going to be where everything is like vulnerable because any terrorist attack to the dome kills everybody on the colony. So there's going to be a cool story. We'll talk about that another time because I have some cool ideas for that. And it's also going to be a commentary on religion because we're going to have it that in space you have to be a religion in order to avoid paying taxes, and so everybody becomes a religion, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah,
I
so it's
like
going to
that.
be the Jews against the Christians against the Muslims, but there's going to be all these other religions, like the spaghetti monster. We'll have a lot of fun with that when the time comes.
Well, anytime.
Yeah, and I think that really wraps up. Like I have this thing about the giantesses, and I have this thing about the sentience, and we have this thing about the cults. But those really came, sprung forth out of just working all this out with you and our discussions. And so those are bullet points that are also in the timeline that I think are cool. but it's not like those were like, Jake's planned comics, like, bucket list of planned comics that he's trying to incorporate, trying to shoehorn into this idea. So yeah, that's a little bit behind the curtain, but I'm also interested in the end user experience. Like, how is Kurt perceiving all this? How is a listener maybe thinking about all this? If you've gotten this
Well,
far.
yeah. I mean, but I think the mesmerizing aspect of it is okay. I want to start seeing things. I want to see things play out. You know what I mean? And like that 2-pager you're going on for Cremita and Funk that Alex Turbin is putting together is an anthology zine. Um, for me, it's just another aspect of excitement that in my real job of marketing artists, is playing out. Because once again, I think it was beginning of this year, as we're coming to the end of 2024. I kept doing my best to get you to just dump words and pictures, not product driven, not fully realized, not all of the edges are sawed off, all the
Yeah.
edges, it's a polished turd, you know what I mean? Which I think a lot of, going back to your distaste for what's happening in mainstream comics, it's the old polished turd type of thing. You keep giving me the same thing, but the thing before that sucked, the thing before that, that suck, and so it all sucks. But
Well,
we're not the demographic that mainstream comics are after, because mainstream comics does have to compete with manga, and manga is why the hell a. I mean, it is all about young adults. It is super focused in. But the thing is because they come out of Japan, Japanese culture is way more progressive about its sexuality and its violence, and showing that to young adults, whatever the hell that age is in Japan. It's 12 years old or something. Don't
well,
quote
yeah,
me.
they work
But
reasonably.
you have that going. But you and I are talking to those who are a number one indie comic book fans, like the undergrounds. From the 60s, the 70s, the black and white boom market of the 80s, and even some of those early 90s, and the people that have fishtailed and wormed their way through and still surviving, and even maybe jumped over to the mainstream. But the other thing too is just the cultural base of being a young person in the 80s and having Saturday morning cartoons and death metal or heavy metal rock. Um, uh, Post-apocalyptic movies coming all the way from Mad Max down to all these copycat stuff. We culturally have had our time, and it's all out there. I just feel like we're scrambling to put our versions out there and maybe even hitch a little car to said place. I'm going to be talking about something a lot in the future based on how well it goes this week. And it's called The Slave and the Sorcerer, which was a Kickstarter fund movie in England, which is a total homage to all of the Deathstalker movies and the Sword and the Sorcerer movies. And so they have made their own. So you can now download that movie since it's been fully funded over a Kickstarter. But I'll be talking more and more about it because I find there's more and more people mining the things I just listed. And we are a part of that too. So this is going to be coming up more and more often. Like I said, I have it very close at hand. So it's going to be easy, Jake, for me to go, okay, Jake, hold on. Where in this thing are you talking about? It somewhere in here. Okay, great. And we can keep a running tab of it. And then also it will be in Doom Mags, which is ultimately how this all came about. People, creatives out there,
Yeah, let
people,
me
just
ask.
give me one last, let me get one last statement though, and I'll
Yeah.
give it back to you. But it's, as a creative, stop trying to make the product in your head. The greatest thing I was taught in school, art school, was get it all out. And then your mastery is the process of eliminating what is not necessary, not the mistakes, not what doesn't work or is not relevant to the society now, all this stuff. No, your responsibility as a creative is to pipe into some kind of place in the ethernet here, get the stuff down on paper in whatever it is, whatever form you're going to do, type it out on your computer, whatever. Then go back and edit yourself. But that is where magic really, really happens. And so those 2 pages I am dying to get a hold of, because I'll obviously be inserting that not only in my Sundays, but I'm going to try to cut some time out in the mornings before I get going to work, to get that to Alex, and the Funk anthology series. But
Absolutely.
thanks for listening to me, Jake. Thanks for
Yeah.
pushing yourself and putting these things out there. And once again, doommags at substack.com. We're about 20, I guess, installments around there at this point and everything. And Jake is just still hot and going on it and everything. And it also gives you, the viewer, the option to make a comment and be a contributor. So, because we have, you're working, you just sent me a couple days ago, yesterday, free script number 2, which is about Weelu and Reempa. And it'll be packaged with a third script that you'll be working on as time moves along, and those 3 scripts will be put out there for people to create their own interpretation of what's being talked about. But that's what I have today. If you want to close this out, there's no rush, Jake, but at the same time, I don't want us to jump into any new topics. So if you want to close this out and move us into a good day, then go for it.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I want to thank Kurt and blame Kurt at the same time. If folks think that this is a bunch of disorganized, grabastic pieces of spaghetti thrown on the wall, there is some sense of it being made already, little by little, piece by piece, which you can tune into right now, as Kurt mentioned, at Doom Mag's Substack. That's substack.com, doommags.substack.com, and just put Doom Mags in Google, and I believe it's the first hit. Um, we are unpacking in writing and with a couple of illustrations, exactly what we're talking about, little by little, piece by piece. Would love to hear some feedback from people, like, I didn't understand this, or could you go more in this direction? Ooh, I want to hear about the giantesses. When are you going to post something about that? But it is being put out now. I say I want to blame Kurt because um some of it is, not fine in its final edit. And I like personally working like that because you're just vomiting everything up on the page, and you can really refine it later and polish it later. um, but that gets you into a weekly installment so that we can actually put something out every week. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, like, some of the chapters, I gave it a good, thorough, read over. Some of the installments that we posted there, especially in the early going, are just like almost like raw note format in some places, and some places it's like, who's talking? Is this a character talking? And funny thing, when I'm reading back some of these pulps, and even Stan Lee, which Stan Lee did some writing for the pulps, um, there was kind of like this stream of consciousness, to it, where the writer, the expressions that are in the writer's brain just come out on the page, and it's like, okay, is this a narrator, or is this a character, or is this just like, or just planning notes? And so there is kind of like a loose format like that. And I got to say, one of my favorite artists, one of sorry writer, my favorite writer, if I had to say who's your favorite desert island writer, is William S. Burroughs, who is known for, a cacophony. It's considered like not even prose. His stuff is so, at sometimes, loosely organized, poetic, let's say, but also, meaningful. So one thing I'm definitely doing is I'm following Kurt's advice. I'm putting all these ideas down. I'm trying to make them as cohesive as possible, for somebody to follow. But it's really, a lot of it is really just, getting it down before it escapes, and and coming back to it later. And so that's the interesting thing about this, is that it is evolving and changing, because I'm going back to these pages on hellclaw.com, and I'm refining them, editing them, adding to them, fleshing them out, such that we're going to have to, go over these installments again later, because some of them have doubled, and we need to go update them. And we also might want to take a look at well, let's match this up to an illustration that matches with the story, because some of our illustrations are just like, all over the place and sketchbooky, and some pertain specifically to a story or a part of the story. So yeah, this is what's going on, and we honestly don't have a lot of subscribers. It's growing, which is good, but it's
We've
not.
got 1,240 and counting. We get a couple each week. And when I
Yeah,
tell people, family members, like I do a podcast, and oh yeah, yeah, and I say, yeah, we've got 1,200 plus followers. They're like, wow.
right.
Now we don't have 1,200 views every week when we do it, but we do all right. And it's more to be said about us staying in our consistency and our pattern behavior than it is to mastermind the YouTube world and monetize, maximize, all this other kind of crap that
Yeah.
just really diminishes the creativity, in my opinion.
Right. We need more clickbait titles, Kurt.
Yeah, we need some more boobies, man. 2025 for me, I am going to be doing a lot more exploration of boobies in my art. So people be on the lookout. Kurt Brugel at Instagram.
Right. Like last night, I'm
Big
like
boobies.
last night I'm in my feed, in my YouTube feed, and it's like the comic that got the writer killed. And I'm like, okay, like I'm sure there's a real story there, but why? Like
Yeah, it's all clickbait. So much of it is just
like,
so disappointing.
So yeah, and yeah, so we're definitely building the YouTube audience and everything, and we hope that you enjoyed these episodes. We hope that you can get some usefulness out of these episodes. But we also, we're also building Substack, and that is not as serious. That is like, if you subscribe, you'll get weekly
notification.
Well, you'll get the actual writing.
Yeah, like a newsletter. Yeah, newsletter right there in your email box. Ain't nothing better. You ain't got to go nowhere.
You will get a writing sample in your inbox. It'll be a certain length, and so you can see what we're writing. You can hit delete. Oh my God, I don't have time for this right now. Or you can skim it, right? Like, okay, let me take a cursory look, and then I'll hit delete. Or you can actually read the whole thing, if you get that far, and take a look. But it'll always be there on the Substack, and it'll always be there on hellclaw.com, which we're going to at some point publicize as a perk for buying our stuff, because it's all just free to just read, and it's all there, and it's all updated. So yeah, Kurt, I think maybe during the con, maybe we'll promote that, the fact that people can go from the Substack over to the Hellclaw and just read the whole thing uninterrupted.
We'll get there. We'll get there. And speaking of con, we are days away from 2025, and we are then 2.5 months away from Jake and I's reunion in the in the physical world. Jake and I have not seen each other since 2020, I think it was. So we've 24 years overdue of actually seeing each other. 20 something of those years of actually not even really communicating with each other, other than, oh, look, Jake Jacobs on Facebook. Oh, look, Jake Jacobs is on,
Yeah.
Instagram, and then
You guys
doing those little,
chatting
like,
over Instagram.
doing all that bullshit socializing. So Jake and I are super excited about this. I will be arriving Friday. I will be leaving Sunday. So if you don't know anything about this and you are a avid comic book indie creator, indie comic collector or creator, this is the show. I can't match it to really anything else other than SPX and C2C or whatever the one out at the Billy Island is. Which both of them next year I do want to attend just to check them out. But March 15th, 2025, Saturday is the only day. So that's a 10 to 6. Jake and I are going to be in, I think, that first back room off from the main hall. I'll have more and more information that goes there. Southern Connecticut State University, indiecomicscreator.com. We are so excited about it. On top of that, PDF version now, both printed and a limited printed edition, and the PDF version of Jake and I's first 12 pages of Turbo Pit Fighters. So this really gets you going. And also I put hot links in the PDF to get you to Doom Mag's Substack and this YouTube channel. So made it easier for just to click that if you're on your phone viewing it, or iPad, or whatever it is. You'll get there quicker. So I did do that marketing part of it. But man, I say it every year. I am super excited about 2025, but I also am I'm trying to figure out a better way to deal with my anxiety about it. And when I say anxiety, I'm not talking about the negative stuff. I'm talking about just being anxious, just being, I'm so excited about getting there, but it is it's anxiousness. It's anxiety. So, with that being said, Jake, I don't have any more for these people. Let them get back to reading comics, making them if they choose. What do you got?
That's it, folks. Any questions about the end of the world timeline and this crazy mind map? Feel free to put them in the comments and shoot away. Try to stump us. I bet you haven't thought of this. Bet you haven't thought of that. And and check in. We'd love to see what you guys are doing, what you're making, and we're also going to be loading up our schedule for 2025 with our Indie Creator
Yes.
Exchange. If you're
Yes.
a creator and you're somebody we spoke to before, you have something to update us on, or if we haven't met you yet, reach out and let's show us what you're working on, because we support the indies. That's about it, Kurt. We're about to tape, I believe, a episode of Comics that Influence, right?
Yes, we are, and it won't be live, but we're going to be talking about some crazy comics. So beyond this will be episode 54 or something like that. Number 50 will be going up today. So, but yeah, I will see you next Sunday.
That's right. All right. Well, see you guys in the funny pages, and have an awesome New Year's. See you in 2025.
Kablamo. Nice. Very nice.
So I got